Good morning. Hello, Clara, Laura, Linda. Hello, my friends. When waiting for a stream, 2 minutes feels like forever. That's fair. That's fair. How's everybody doing today? Hope everyone's doing well. Good morning, Kia. Doing okay. Been up since 4 a.m. my time. It's almost 8. Dang. Good morning. I made a video I made this morning. I am struggling with the apathy today. Like I'm not gonna stop, obviously. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm struggling with the apathy. And I'm seeing people try and point out the positives. And I appreciate that. But I'm still struggling with it. So I feel like running amok. I apologize in advance. No worries. It's over. You're listening to another live talking about Georgia. Hey, Aaron. As doing the primaries. Yeah. Yeah. Allowing lots of people don't vote in primaries. Yep. I'm just annoyed at the numbers because it's the same. And again, I know in some cases, like more Democrats came out than before, like, which is good. But I'm just like, it's still such a small percentage. And it pisses me off how small of a percentage it is. Hey, Angel. Hey, AJ. Hey, Wendy. And I don't like being pissed off, especially about that. I think they screwed up with Massey. Possibly. And again, I am not sad to see Massey go. That guy is a piece of shit too. And they screwed up with Cornyn. Sure. Oh, you know, this could all end up being for the good. All of this in the long run could end up being for the good. I just wish more people came out. Like, that's the part that pisses me off. Is the numbers are still, and I know for people that want to look at the bright side, you can say the numbers in a broad sense, like more Democrats came out to vote, which is great. Don't get me wrong, it's great. Especially when you're in situations where, because of the way the state works, sometimes you can't vote in certain primaries, even though that's who you may vote for in the election. Just wish more people came out. Morning, Jeremiah. Morning, Ambrosia. And I wish incumbents didn't win as much as they did. But again, it's not going to stop what I do. It's just frustrating. Some people won. Some people got runoffs, which was great. The majority of people to proceed in voting, especially primaries, is to make it easy as possible for them to do so. I mean, you may be right. I'm not sure that would matter, but you may be right. I mean, in primaries, that's not even it. I mean, in the end, the parties can decide how voting happens. It's not even the states to an extent. I just realized I still had it on top chat, not live chat, so I didn't see. Trump has shown his dominance of the Republican electorate, but that may come back to haunt him. The people he fucked over are still in office till January. That's true. You may be right. I think my problem, Scott, is that you talk to those, at least one of them. Like every time I see Tillis talk, he still talks about how he wants the Republican Party to succeed. And I'm just like, how can you be that obsessed with your party that you can see what's going on and just still be like, yeah, I want him to succeed? It's like, no. Cornyn can be petty. I mean, it sounds like what's his face in Louisiana is going to be petty too. So good. I hope they're all petty. Hey, meme. I hope they're all petty. Also, hope that the stuff that comes from this gets people pissed off too. Because I was watching a couple lawyers talk about at least the one pager that came after. And it's like, dude. Look at me having the same thought as you. Yeah. Yeah. Again, right now, it's just, yeah. We should all file that claim. It's not even just the money. It's the immunity stuff. It's basically trying to make it so he can't be prosecuted on things in the past and potentially the future. That pisses me off. Hi, long time no see, Q. I mean, the money pisses me off, obviously. Very long time. Yeah, it's been so long. Yeah, Wendy. That and so much more. Oh, exactly. And I hope that they run on it like crazy. Again, this is one of those, both things are true. I'm pissed off that it's happening. And hopefully it gets used in a way that helps. That helps. And I hope that they talk about that reality more. That's what I'm worried about, to be honest, is that it won't get talked about enough. Heck, if it wasn't for TikTok, I wouldn't even know about the immunity side of things. I haven't seen anyone in mainstream media talking about it. Morning, Jen. Oh, it seems the app doesn't like me today. Or last night. It was wild. That's okay. We'll just talk on the tube. Nah, you can hang out in the tube. I don't mind. I mean, that doesn't surprise me that Jen Psaki and Lawrence O'Donnell are talking about it. Morning, Minnesota Mom. Got to hear Todd Blanche's angry voice. Yeah. Yeah, I am not his personal attorney. I am the acting attorney general, and you will respect my authority. You found the tube chat. Well, we'll see if it sticks. I'm sure there will be not more than the fraud under this administration. We could have a huge series documentary on the dysfunction from this administration. Truth. It's true. 100% could. I see lawsuits building. I'm surprised the lawsuit hasn't been filed already. Morning, Gina. I still don't understand how it's legal. That's a great question. Wish I had an answer. But to be fair, I say that about a lot of what this administration tries to do. Good morning, OC. I'm doing okay. If you saw my video this morning, I'm struggling with apathy. But hey, Vonda. It does seem to be legal, unfortunately. Yeah. It's so sad. Again, no love for Thomas Massey. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. And who knows what will happen in the general election. Because again, more people vote in the general election. The people that vote in the primaries are the ones that care the most. Now that the incumbent's out, doors could open a little bit more. Guys, if you're over here on TikTok, please tap that nose. It helps push it out. Also share. Join the fan club. All that stuff really does help. Hey, Denomaly. I am not going to miss Massey. I think we forget some of the other stuff he's voted for, but I appreciate the stuff he did on the e-files, but he has voted for some pretty shitty things too. I hope he uses his last few months, his last 7 months in office, to help empty the swamp. But I'm not going to be sad to see him go. Hey, Cat. Disagree that the U.S. should separate into smaller countries. All that's going to do is open the doors in many of these red states to take away the rights of people. Is the person that won the primary even worse, though? I didn't look a lot into him. I know he's a former Navy SEAL. That's all I know about him right now. Hey, Shadow. Guys, please tap that nose. Very worse. Southern states would fail. Yeah, but that would be people losing their lives. People that didn't vote for this. Morning, Carla. I wish we'd get an attitude and secretly release the files. Wouldn't that be nice? Morning, Castro. It would take a lot of effort to be worse. Yes. I think Massey should set a fire in the Congress. Yes. I mean, the insurrectionists already got pardoned, so nothing surprises me at this point. Hey, Prairie. Yeah, but Massey voted to end the war because it was costing money. I don't think it's because he was actually against the war per se. Like he has always been very libertarian when it comes to voting on money things. But he also was one of the few people that voted against what was it? An anti-lynching law or something like that. Like he actually voted against it, if I remember correctly. Community people can come up. Guys, if you're over here on TikTok, please tap that nose.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Ready to get off this fucking ride? Good morning,
I'm right
Shelly.
there with you.
Any elections today? No. So next week there will be. Next week is the Texas runoff elections. I don't know if there's anybody else, but that's all I know of for the rest of the month.
Yeah, that's May 23rd.
26th.
26th? There's one on the 23rd, I believe.
Thursday? No. 23rd is a Saturday.
No, it's not. Nope. It's a different month then. That's the 23rd. There's so many different days and months that they're running all the way to September.
True. Yeah, Delaware has a month and a half of general election. I think that's crazy.
Well, I have a few thoughts on the election.
Yeah.
Of the last couple of days, there's been a few elections. There's no doubt that Donald Trump remains in near total control of the Republican primary process. I mean, we've seen Massey. We saw what happened in Louisiana to Cassidy. We saw what happened in Indiana to the state legislatures. We're going to see in a few days what happens in Texas with the Paxton endorsement. Paxton's going to win. And we saw it in the Kentucky Senate race with Andy Barr winning, which knocked off Mitch McConnell's favorite candidate. But I wonder, what has Trump actually won here? And I talked about it a little bit over on the other side. I can count 4 senators who's sitting senators who will remain sitting senators until January: Tillis, Cassidy, Cornyn, and McConnell, who now owe absolutely nothing to Donald Trump. So you can kiss that, but you could probably kiss it goodbye anyway, but you can kiss that voting ID bill goodbye. That's not going to get passed. In fact, a lot is not going to get passed. And already Johnson is having a hard time keeping control of his own caucus. They're the gang that can't shoot straight. And now Massey is going to be throwing bombs in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. He's got nothing to lose now. So be careful what you wish for, Mr. President. You already know that your legislative agenda is dead in the water come November. I would argue that it's dead in the water as of today.
Aaron, the only thing that I know that happened in Indiana was they spent millions upon millions of dollars to primary all the people that voted against his gerrymandering there.
You know, I was like I told Scott on the other side, like myself, sorry. I was thinking like Scott last night, because as I was listening, was actually listening to T, and he was playing Jen and Lawrence, the episodes last night, and they were talking, and I was sitting here thinking, like, I don't know if this is as good as he thinks it is, because if he put people in there that are worse, like, it's going to backfire. Then, like what Scott said, now the people who lost but are still there, like, it's not like because they lost their primaries yesterday that they disappeared. They're still there until next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he thought about that.
I don't think Donald Trump, if we've learned anything in the last 10 years, is he doesn't think in anything other than 2-minute increments. He is incapable of strategic thought. And for instance, let's just pick a small thing that with an election that hasn't happened yet, the endorsement of Paxton. What good is that going to do him? Why would he even do that? You know, let it play out. There's no plus side for him in that. But he saw that Paxton is up in the polls, and he loves to endorse people who he thinks are already going to win so he can say, I'm the one who gave them that victory. But all he's going to achieve, since the Republicans are definitely going to lose the House and they're in real trouble in the Senate, all he's achieved is making an enemy out of Cornyn for the next 6 months. That's not smart politics. It really isn't.
I mean, shocker.
Yeah. And this $1.8 billion slush fund, along with the immunity for the $100 million that he already owes in taxes, well, not anymore, and immunity for his family and businesses, again, for all past actions, that's going to cost us 1.8, the 100 million from that Trump already owes, let's call it 1.9 billion. That may be the best money in advertising the Democrats could have gotten. I mean, that's not going to sit well with the rest of the 330 million Americans who have to pay their taxes. That's not going to sit well. And I'm not talking about the hardcore MAGAs. We can't reach them anyway. They're gone. I'm talking about the Trump-adjacent voters who voted for him in 2024 and now are facing a midterm with all the economic problems that we've listed ad nauseum on this channel and all over the place. And now the corruption angle comes in. I mean, this doesn't pass the smell test for anybody. So the Democrats can't buy for $1.8 billion advertising as they're going to get out of this.
Yeah. And
it's just dumb politically.
Yep. And Kim, yeah, that's right. You need to pray for our Congress members who are suffering. So we just need to let them trade stocks because they haven't gotten a raise since 2009. It's just so sad.
But you know, the thing
Mike,
is, Scott, like with this thing, because I've heard other lawyers, and they don't seem to agree that this is such a sure thing, that they're going to end up with all this money and all this stuff, that he's just going to get it. They think that there's going to be lots of lawsuits and stuff. But my thing is like, I don't think that they thought about also I heard somebody bring up a take was that couldn't that money being put out there like that, could that not also be seen, I'm trying to word my words carefully, as like an incentive, if you know what I'm saying? Because like if people know they're going to be able to crime and then they're going to get pardoned and then get paid, could that potentially, hypothetically, I mean, put those words in there, could that not also come about, have other repercussions beyond what's happening right now?
Damn this thing. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I was talking about it strictly politically, and the damage is already done. Whether it's legal or not and ends up getting thrown out, Trump has already done a grotesquely corrupt act. I've never even seen third world dictatorships pull moves like this. This is a move straight out of Banana Republic. Yes, there are legal issues with it. The thing that bothers me is I don't quite get the funding mechanism for it. It's provided by the Treasury, and yes, there is apparently a no-cap law that seemingly says that he can do this, but I don't understand how you get a payout when you haven't even launched a lawsuit. That's what bothers me. Normally, to get a payout, you have to file a malicious prosecution lawsuit. And he's saying, oh, no, you just apply. Fuck, I'm going to apply. I was terribly damaged on January 6th. I think Nancy Pelosi threw a brick at me, and I want to get paid. That should be worth about $2 million is what I'm going to ask. The whole thing seems so haphazard and sloppily thrown together, a one-page memo. Now, a president, just so we know the law here, a president cannot, under any circumstances, void an IRS investigation. President can't even ask to have an IRS investigation dropped. But my understanding of the law is the Attorney General can, which is why the Attorney General issued that one-page immunity letter. My understanding is that he can do that. But you're quite right, Kia. This is very murky. It's very foggy, and there's going to be a lot of legal cases here. We're a long way from the finish line. The thing that bothers me the most, though, is I've never heard of payouts being made to people who haven't sued. People have to sue for malicious prosecution to be paid for malicious prosecution. Here they're saying, fill out an application like you're going to Walmart and filling out an application for a Walmart credit card. What are you kidding me? No evidence, no trial, no depositions, no pretrial discovery, none of that. You simply apply, and then some murky 5-man commission decides whether you get the money or not. This whole thing sounds like the gang that can't shoot straight, or to use an older phrase that only older people know, some sort of Rube Goldberg mechanism here. That's where I think this thing might fall apart, is the way they've put it together.
Yeah, I feel you. I agree. Like, with
What's the
the
application
political part, you're absolutely right. And I hope that they use this to their advantage. Like, I hope they get off of that. I was listening to one of the interviews this morning, and I don't know who, I can't remember who it was, Mike, because Damon picked it. She's in Arizona. But like
Oh,
that
yeah.
strongly worded letter bullshit. When she was saying that was driving down the road, like, yes, fuck them strongly worded letters. Like, the Democrats, we cannot win if we keep playing by a rule book that the other side has thrown out a long time ago. We will not win.
I mean, that goes along with the statement. I think I read it last night. I made a post over on Meta's version of the tweet app. That's basically was like, I think the reason we got to where we are is all the bad things that have been happening throughout history, I think, are because of the conservatives' lack of humanity and too many moderates' fear of change. Now, obviously, that's not all of them, but
Yes. Yes. We cannot, like, the moderates, and I know, and it's not all, and if you're moderate, like, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. We cannot just keep trying to maintain and it is what, to me, when I hear moderate, it's almost like it is what it is. It's like those two things go together, and it's frustrating because I'm like, we can't, and we have to get people to stop thinking that being progressive is a bad word, because progressive is not a bad word. In order for us to get any of the things that we want, the healthcare, our tax situation straight, the house, all that stuff is going to require progress. We can't maintain even the way that things were being done before all this shit just really started going crazy. We oh,
Progressive and socialist are not the intimidating, scary words that everybody thinks. They are literally the tools we need in order to move this country forward and heal from the gashes that have been inflicted upon it.
I mean, we just need to look, every system has its potential flaws. Socialism, communism, capitalism, all the isms. Without guardrails, without regulation, without protections, any of them can go bad. To think in the end, every society, including American society, has progressed. It's never not. Like, literally from the dawn of time, every civilization, every society has progressed. There is if in the end you think that things were always the better in a different way, you are like, everything can get better. Everything needs, like, society changes, and you have to change You have to change the way you govern sometimes with the way society changes. And that's part of our problem is we're still living with a, aw, Bruce. Sounds like somebody's living with some tiny D. Wait.
Bruce, Tiny D energy.
We are living under a 250-year-old document. Now, obviously, the amendments have come in after, but the basis of the document that it amends is still exactly the same. And we need to fix that problem, or we're not actually going to progress long term.
And that's where I talk about we have some antiquated systems still in place that we're trying to adapt to modern day society, and we're not adapting them properly. We're not evolving them. They are the same exact as they were, when they were implemented X amount of years ago.
Absolutely. And that's like, what I used to tell Di is like it's so frustrating when in the 2000 anything we're quoting cases from like the 17 and 1800s and stuff before like black people were considered whole persons, before black people could vote, before women could vote, before indigenous people could vote. Like the fact that we still use that kind of stuff to I just it blows my mind. Talk about conservative. I mean, wow, it's insane.
Yep. And that's the unfortunate reality of, and arguably I get it. I'm going to only play a tiny bit of devil's advocate. We need change is difficult for a lot of people. Even people that are progressive, I think the idea sometimes of change is scary, especially when you're talking, we've had this conversation about like the Constitution changing and the fact that if we decided to have a constitutional convention, conservatives, racists, and misogynists would get a say in what the new Constitution looked like. Now, just like Scott has said, I think we're at a point where we need to do something different, but I understand that fear too. It still needs to change. We still need to do something different. I think we need more people to wake up and get involved and all that stuff. I think if more people got involved and more people talked, we would start heading in the right direction anyways, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Mike. I think the idea of a constitutional convention is risky. I think we're clear-eyed about that, because if you have a constitutional convention, you cannot dictate which direction it will go in, and that is inherently risky. But I would counter that by asking, does anybody think that what we've got right now is working well anymore? And I don't think it is. I think it's time to, either that or have a constitutional convention to change the Constitution to make it easier to amend the Constitution. It doesn't matter how you look at it. I think the only way out, since it's so hard to amend the Constitution, is to call a constitutional convention and rework the document. But is it risky? It's damned risky.
And it's not mob rule. It still needs to be signed off on by a majority of, I don't know if there's any rules on the Constitutional Convention at like taking on a new constitution, but
what I mean, Zoe, is you can't control where the Constitutional Convention goes. I mean, you may get a majority to say that there is not only no Roe v. Wade, but no state can allow a Roe v. Wade. You could have that be a result of a constitutional convention. You cannot control the delegates once you've got them there. So there are some risks to it. And what would be a predicate to a constitutional convention is, unfortunately, a catastrophic occurrence, which we may very well hit in this administration. If some people would argue that we're already there, and I wouldn't argue against that. It's risky because you cannot call a constitutional convention and say we only want to talk about issues A, B, and C. You cannot do that. You cannot bind the delegates to a constitutional convention of doing any damn thing they feel like doing.
Yeah. I love when people say, when people put absolutes on things. There were a lot of people thought we would never get to this point, that the checks and balances would hold. They thought this kind of stuff would never happen. And yet they were wrong. Stop putting absolutes on things. There's no such thing as an absolute. This administration is the most corrupt administration to ever exist No, you're not getting rid of corruption. They are the corruption.
I'm certainly one of the people you were talking about. I follow politics and history. I would say as good as anybody on this app. And 20 years ago, I would have told you that what we are seeing today is impossible, that would never happen, that the guardrails would hold. And clearly they're not. And as for your comment on the corruption, I was thinking yesterday when I saw this, when I read about the $1.8 billion and the immunity page, that's our Attorney General, one-page document. And, thinking of the Teapot Dome scandal, thinking of the financial scandals at the end of the Grant administration, there is nothing that even comes close to this. It is blatant. It is obvious. It is out in the open. He's not even attempting to hide the corruption. The crypto schemes. I mean, the list goes on and on. $400 million planes from Qatar that he's going to somehow get to keep after his administration. This is just beyond. We're so through the looking glass. We're way beyond that.
Goofy, when have we been in a place like we're in right now before? When do you believe in American history we have been in the kind of place that we are in right now? I would love to hear that.
I often talk about, I keep waiting for the crypt keeper to pop up out of his coffin. And I legit turned on the TV the other day, and there's either this past weekend or this weekend coming up, they're actually doing like a marathon of the crypt, of Tales from the Crypt. And I was like, oh, how fucking fitting to have a whole weekend of Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember all the things now. Some of them get lost in memory. The crypto schemes, the phones, the Trump playing cards, or whatever the hell he called, selling a citizenship to the United States for $1 million or $5 million a pop on whichever Trump card you want to buy. The DTFs or whatever they were called. I mean, the list just goes on and on
EFTs.
and on. DFTs, I'm sorry.
EFTs.
EFTs, whatever the hell they are.
Pictures.
The bottom line is simple. He's a guy who became president, 16 months ago, and not even 16 months, and he's doubled his net worth. Now, that's never happened. There is no comparable throughout American history. None. We've had plenty of corrupt politicians, but this guy brings it to a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, has the nation gone through rough times before? Of course we have. We went through a civil war. We went through a depression in 1895. We went through a much worse depression in 1929. We went through World War II, and we went through Vietnam. I was alive then. I know what that was like. This country was at each other's throats. But in terms of corruption, blatant corruption, there is nothing comparable to this throughout our entire history.
Since the day he took office, the second term, we have been nothing but a petty cash fund for whatever the hell he wants to do.
JT, Scott lives in Jersey. He knows New York City. Still.
You know, I had almost forgotten about the gold citizenship cards where they want to take birthright citizenship away from people who are born in America, but they want to hand citizenship to people who can pay $1 million a pop.
Yeah, think about the irony behind that one, huh?
How's my 401k? What does it matter if I'm never going to be able to retire?
JT, what does that, more importantly, JT, what does that have to do with what we're discussing? What does that have to do with what we are discussing? You see how you move the goalposts there, JT? You can't answer the questions about obvious corruption, so you throw a red herring out there. Do you see what you're doing? Because you're not fooling anyone.
Oh, and they also told us we should move to New York City. That's the same person.
Well, yeah, I think he's trying to say that New York is super corrupt.
I want them to say it. That's the only reason why they're still here. I'm
want
waiting
him
for them to
move
say Mom
Indiana
Donnie.
then and deal with our corruption that's rampant.
Look,
It's not just one state, it's across the board, my dude.
Yeah, I live in New Jersey. We just sent a senator to jail named Bob Menendez, who I voted for. So I'm well aware of corruption. New Jersey has a long history of it. I'm sure our friends who live in Illinois can talk about their long history of corruption. There is still nothing like what we're seeing. Mm-hmm. And what distinguishes this corruption, at least Bob Menendez tried to hide his gold bars. Donald Trump doesn't try and hide it at all. He does it right out in the open. Maybe that's the secret to being a corrupt politician from now on. Do it in the open.
It must be, because I'll tell you what, the last year here, our red states like Indiana, our politicians have become more and more vocal about the corruption that's been happening about behind closed doors, and they're proud of it because they're the ones who've been doing it. That's a problem.
Not to mention,
perfect example is our kids aren't eating this summer because they didn't feel like doing the paperwork.
Not to mention, people are cashing in their 401ks to pay for like normal stuff before they even would retire.
Yeah, and we have the president's chief economic advisor bragging how much people are spending on their credit cards. That's not a flex. That's not a flex. They're maxing out their credit cards to buy food. That's not a flex.
Making
it would be
money
one thing
with...
if there were. Go ahead.
No, I'm just reading his comment that he can't talk anymore, so I don't care. Here's the realities, and which is why anytime you look at futures or stock markets or any of that, I don't listen to you anymore. So, gas prices are going up, and barrels of, oil barrels prices have gone up, and today you see them going down for no apparent real reason. And yet there's reporting going out that crude oil inventories are decreasing in the United States by 8 million barrels a day.
Was this the live where we were talking about yesterday how they were loaning out the crude oil and we're going to end up being quote, quote, paid for it when it's at its lowest again?
Well, no, that's a totally separate thing. That's when the whole Iran war was in the beginning, and we were starting to hear about the problems, and every country was putting some of their strategic reserve on the market. That was just that. This is the fact that now that everyone is, can't get their oil from, 20% of the oil can't come from the Strait anymore. They're pulling it from our reserves, and this administration tries to make everyone think that that's great for us. It's not. It's great for the oil companies. We don't benefit from this. We don't benefit. And you said, no, taxes. No. Do you understand how little taxes these companies pay because they want, like, they get subsidized more than anything.
Carla asks in chat, Scott, do you think if they keep the majority, and I assume you mean the Republicans, balkanization would be a choice? Boy, that's a tough one. If things keep going as they're going, people will be talking about that. I don't think so right now. I know that's not a satisfactory answer, but I think we have to wait and see how this plays out. I wish I could be, you know, I know social media, you want everything in black and white with no nuance. There's a lot that goes into that, and I don't see that right now.
What is that? What is balkanization?
I think she means like basically a splitting up of the country. Now, Carla, you can correct me if I'm not characterizing your question correctly. You know, basically just say, hey, you guys want your independence? This time we won't stop you. Bye. You know, that type of thing, Kia. I don't think that we're on the verge of, you know, you hear so many people, especially on this app, talking about civil war and stuff like that. I don't see it. But do I see red flags that are going in that direction? Damn right I see them. And that's what scares the hell out of me. And the reason it scares the hell out of me is because we don't have enough voting in this country going on as it is. And if people get discouraged, they're going to say, what's the use? And that's what scares the living hell out of me. When they see a Supreme Court decision disenfranchising part of our population, my worries, and I hope I'm wrong, is that a lot of that population are going to say, what the fuck am I bothering to vote for? You know, we've just gone back to Jim Crow, so my vote doesn't count anymore. Yeah, and I hope it goes in the exact opposite direction, and early indications, and I'm watching this like a hawk, early indications are that that is not going to be the result. It's going to be a highly motivating factor for them to vote, saying, fuck you, now I'm going to crawl over broken glass for 2 miles to get to that voting booth. And I hope that that's, the early indications are that's exactly what had occurred. It's going to boomerang on them.
Thank you for explaining that. And I think for me, I get frustrated when people talk about the country splitting apart, because I think it's really easy, especially if you live in a blue state and things are better. I don't think people think about all the people who don't live in blue states and that can't afford. I could never afford to move to a blue state. I could not afford it. So because I can't afford it, does that mean I will get stuck with all the MAGA people? Like I think like that's such a harmful conversation to have. It's not the 1800s anymore. It's 2026, and I just think it's like really, it just frustrates me hearing people talking about that, because it's like, what the fuck, what about us? What about those of us that vote blue too, that also support everything that we're trying to do? And then people talking about other, you know, states seceding. And it's like, what do you do? How do you help all of the people that can't afford to just pick up and move their entire life to move to a blue state?
Yeah.
That's really frustrating to me. It's almost kind of like black people, like, we're already under attack, like you said, Jim Crow 2.0. Like, we're already under attack, and then you got people sitting here talking about seceding, because what would it be? Like California and the other blue states. A lot of people that I could not afford to live there. I grew up in a blue state.
And
I cannot afford to move there now. That's so frustrating.
It's
I
not
I
just that.
apologize. Go ahead.
We shouldn't have to move. We shouldn't have to move our kids away from their friends. We shouldn't have to move away from our communities. We shouldn't have to move away from our families just to afford to live. We shouldn't have to. So to sit there and say, well, just move is not the answer. Second, most of us cannot afford to, even if we did sell our homes, move to another state and get another home, because we've already been priced out of it.
Yeah, with 6.5 interest rates, things like that. Both of your points are exactly correct. You know, Kia, my heart says all the time, go ahead and secede. This time we won't stop you. But my head says that exactly what you're saying, Kia. It's not practical. It's just not practical because of the reasons that you outlined. And by the way, it works for both sides. I mean, imagine if you're a Republican living in Orange County, California, and the whole thing is the secession goes through. You have no voice anymore. So it would work for both sides. Because you have blue people in red states and you have red people in blue states. So it's not a practical solution, despite the fact that every time I get frustrated by something that Jim Jordan says, I say, oh, fuck, just get out of my country. You guys want to have your own country? Beautiful. I'll let you keep the name. I'll give you 5 years of free Netflix if you leave now. I'll give you foreign aid, anything to get rid of you people. But I know logically that for the reasons Kia eloquently laid out, it's not practical.
And for me, it's more hard. Like, it's harmful and it's hurtful when people talk about it, because it's like you're it's almost like you're trying to win no matter what, and you don't care about who's going to get hurt in the process. And it's like, I thought we were different from them, because that's what they do. They do whatever it takes to win, and they don't give a fuck who gets hurt, harmed, or whatever else in the process. And it's just like, that conversation is just, I wish people would just be careful having that conversation, whether it's here or anywhere else. It's just because it's my heart. Like, I had my children here, my sons live here. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
Well, the whole Civil War discussion is fraught to begin with, because as we are discovering now in Iran, wars are very easy to start. They're not so easy to finish. And nobody in 1861 thought that 725,000 people would perish out of a nation of only 30 million people. And that's what occurred in the Civil War. Everybody thought it would last 2 months. It didn't. So be careful what you wish for, folks, because it's never as easy and cut and dried as you think it's going to be.
So a couple things that I want to say. One, so Garpu on the other side asked, how do we budge the red states? We go in there. We do exactly what is being done by people that are in these red states, and start talking and showing people that just because we may have a D next to our name does not mean we hate them, or that we're not smart, or that we don't care, or that we don't think the same things they do. A lot of the people in these deep red states have never interacted with a Democrat in their entire life. The only Democrats they have even talked to, or at least knowing that they've talked to, have been people that they have heard talked about on TV. That's it. So that is how we start changing that. And there are people doing the work. But also, I want to say, when it comes to this whole conversation about the secessions and stuff like that, look, I have always struggled when people have said, we need to fight fire with fire. And again, I'm not saying that that's what this case is, but that was one of the reasons that I was nervous about us going through with this mentality of, if we need to get down to their level, because it's so easy to stop thinking about, it's so easy to start thinking in the way that they think, when it comes to a lot of these things. I mean, these are the people that say, just move if you don't like it. And it's so easy to start having that mentality if we aren't careful. And again, there's always more to it. There's always more nuance to it. But this is why we need to be careful in the way we do things and interact. We need to hold on to our humanity when we're doing all of this, when we're having all of these conversations, because If we want to say we're different, then we need to actually be different. That doesn't mean we need to roll over and let them do whatever the hell they want. But it's so easy. It's, again, we've talked about this before. There were periods in time in war where it's easy to just go, oh, we'll just go down. We have to win. And we'll just go down to this level for now. And that's it. But we got to do this to win. We got to go down to here. Well, again, we're going against people that have no humanity, that have no morality. And we're seeing it straight in our faces right now. We need to be careful. We need to be careful because I'm seeing it not just in this conversation that Kia was specifically talking about, but I'm seeing it when it comes to a lot of things. I'm seeing people that, whether they realize it or not, are losing their own humanity and morality because of how they're interacting in things right now. They may care on one end, but they don't realize that what they're doing, how they're coming out, how they're talking to people, how they're interacting is actually is actually looking and sounding like the people that they say they're against. And we need to be super careful about that. There's got to be a line. There has to be a line. If there's not a line, it's gonna turn into something that is completely different than than any of us wanted. I think there's a lot of pent up rage. Oh, James.
James, how's that tiny D energy look?
When did you start doing this? It's pretty funny.
I do it every once in a while. Sometimes I forget, but yeah, I think there's a lot of pent up rage. And again, pent up rage, understandable. It's completely understandable. Everyone's angry. Everyone's angry that it looks like that this administration is getting away with everything. That is valid. And there is this feeling, and again, you're talking to someone, if you watched my video today, there is a part of me that wants to give up as well. I have interviewed hundreds of people, and it was very hard to see the numbers come in and see that 15 to 25% still was all that came out and voted, and that incumbents got through in so many cases. And it was hard. There was a part of me that was just like, is what I'm doing worth it? Now, I know it's worth it. It's something that needs to get done. And the only way we're going to fix things is if people like me keep doing what we're doing. Most people are exhausted. I understand that. I'm exhausted, Vonda.
So am I, and yet we're still doing it, aren't we, Mike?
Exhaustion is not fighting against. I mean, look. How long have members? How long is the black community? How long did the black community fight for their rights? How long did women fight for their rights? You think they weren't exhausted and aren't exhausted?
We're still fighting and we're never able to stop.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We can't use exhaustion as an excuse.
Can I try a stab at Garpu's question?
Sure.
Yeah, Garpu, learning to win over some of the red states is not just a wish list for the Democrats. Starting in a few years, in 4 years, it's going to be a necessity. Now, what do I mean by that? Up to now, if the Democrats take Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, they win the White House. Doesn't matter what happens in North Carolina. Doesn't matter what happens in Georgia. Doesn't matter what happens in Arizona. Doesn't matter what happens in Nevada. If they win those 3 states, they are in the White House. Not anymore. After the census of 2030, it will become not a luxury, but a necessity for Democrats to win in the South. Otherwise, they will not win the White House, even if they take Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Why? Because of the census. More delegates, or excuse me, more electoral votes will be heading down south to Texas and Florida and will be coming away from blue states. Red states will gain electoral votes. Blue states will lose some electoral votes. So now it's a necessity. So we have started to campaign harder in red areas, both in the South and the Midwest. That has to be doubled up. That has to be, we have to reach the working class where they are, understand their sensibilities, and we have to be flexible. Because if we're not flexible, we're never going to win them over, and they're going to tune us out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard work. It sucks. I wish I had a better answer for you, Garpu, but that's what has to be done.
Yep. And when Kenny, I haven't seen you before, so I don't know how often you've been here, but coming in and saying you young folks to Scott, who is much older, and 3 people that are in their 40s, and I'm Shadow. I do not know how old you are, and I'm not going to guess.
I'm in my 40s.
There you go. And a bunch of people in their 40s is kind of rude. We know it's not easy.
I'm much older? Ouch.
Hey, you say it all the time.
Hey, listen,
I know. I'm just having some fun with
I
you.
know. The energy
listen,
is the
y'all.
point. Yeah, but people.
Good morning.
Hey, Shug.
Hey.
The energy. I understand energy is the point, and people are tired, and I get it. And we're allowed to say we're tired. We do have to get over it. We do. Again, when it comes down to privilege, if saying you're tired is an excuse. No, tired is a reality. Telling someone that they're tired is just an excuse is just going to push them away. You guys don't get this. Look, these are realities. Part of empathy is listening to someone, hearing what they're saying, and believing them. The reality is we are all tired. We are all very tired. We're living in a 24/7 news cycle, and it feels like it's never going to end. That's the reality. The other reality is if we want to fix it, we need to move past that. It can't be a reason to stop working on it. We need saying you're tired and being able to walk away is a form of privilege. That is a reality, because there are lots of people in this country that don't have the ability to walk away, that don't have the ability to completely step away because of the situation they're in, because of where they live, because of who their family is, lots of reasons.
You know, let me say this and put it in a very simplified form. Work with the ones you can. Stay far away from the ones you can't work with, and stay strong with the ones who are on your side. That's what it is. So keep coming into these spaces. You keep talking. If like I said, if they got some sense, work with them. Talk to them. It's all good. Nobody's going to agree on everything, but anyone with a little bit of sense, would be able to look at the foolishness that this administration is doing and go, yeah, I'm not rolling with this. And you say, look, here's how you can help. I'll give you this example. I think it was, I want to say, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to think it was World War One. And I think it was, I don't remember what two countries, but effectively they ended up playing like a soccer game. And it was like, today, we're not going to fight each other. Tomorrow we can go back to business as usual, but today we're just going to get away from this. And they actually played a soccer game in the middle of a world war.
Yeah, that was World War One. That was the famous Christmas truce in 1917, I believe it was.
There you go. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you. Just so y'all know, Scott was there. That's how he had that information readily available.
How did I know that was coming?
But hey, World War One is not as old as Jesus, so I mean, there's that.
Yeah,
I
I know.
mean, true.
I'm already. I'm surprised I haven't been accused yet of taking part in the plot against him. Scott was Pontius Pilate's right-hand man.
Yeah. Scott was the referee. Good grief. But no, but seriously, y'all, all jokes aside, it just, listen, if England and Germany were able to put aside differences during a war, we can put aside some differences about this and treat each other with some dignity. That's the like they've been saying, that really is the only chance that we have, because it's that, what's that adage? They don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So we can talk about all of the, we can run down all of the wild and all the crazy. But we just need to let them know, like, hey, look, we might disagree on some stuff, and we will disagree on some stuff, but we got to be able to come together to say, hey, this is too far. These things are steps too far, and we need to help each other. We can go back and forth about how we need to help each other. Okay, sure. But at the end of the day, we need to realize that we got to help each other. That's what it's going to take.
And again, I understand that there will be points where people can take breaks. I would never, as someone who has, up until today, actually, other than posting the interviews over, on the tube and clips from the interviews, I took a couple days off posting because my brain, I literally would sit down in front of a camera and, I'd record something and I'd look at it and go, none of this was it was a word salad. I was just word salading because my brain could not process stuff at that moment and I couldn't put it together. So I took a couple days off from going as far as I have. But I also never fully stopped. And I also, I did the things that I could do, because here's the fact, here's the reality is there are always things you can do. You can always watch a video of someone. You can always put a video up. You can share it. You can do things. That's why I keep saying, these are the kind of things that struggle. And again, I do not want anyone to feel guilty about it. Please understand what I'm about to say is not to make any of you feel guilty. But I struggle. I'll say I struggle. I struggle with the fact that I know about 120 people to 300 people watch me on a daily basis. And my interviews get 15 views. That's hard for me. It's nothing against you guys, but it's hard for me. I'm still going to do it because it needs to get done.
I feel that simply because there are some of my videos that they've been out for a month and now they still have 0 views.
Papa, in response to you, I remember a famous story. You were talking about people who have, reach out to the people who have good common sense and goodwill, etc. In 1952 and 56, Adlai Stevenson was the Democratic nominee for president, and he was a very good one. He also had no chance. He was running against Ike, and Ike was a hero. Ike's campaign slogan was "Everybody likes Ike," and he was right. Everybody did like Ike. So Stevenson's giving a speech one time, and a person in the crowd yells out, "You're going to get every thinking man's vote." And without skipping a beat, Adlai Stevenson said, "Yeah, but I still have to win." So
Mm-hmm.
we have
Mm.
to have an informed electorate if we're going to try and reach them.
Mhm.
And getting people informed is job one.
And this is why I say it. So like, look at, you can see a couple places where it's happened. Like one of the things that I've noticed. So if you guys remember Adam Dunnigan, who I interviewed a while back, he is starting to get a lot more coverage because of things that have happened that has gotten his name out. As he's expanded in his visibility, more people want to talk to him. It's getting his reach out to more people. He probably has a really good chance now. I mean, I'd like to think he has a great chance no matter what, but that's the kind of stuff we have to do for everyone. We have to.
He is such a good interview too.
We need more of that with more of these people. And again, I understand it's exhausting. I understand it may not even be super exciting at times, because it's not. Politics, you know, the politics side of things can be really tedious and boring, and I get that. I get that.
And I know that makes it harder for people to want to tune in. And that's where I know you and me, we hope we bring something to it that actually gets people to tune in based on our energy and our knowledge, and, you know, how we bring a little bit of spunk to it. And we sit there and we tell jokes with the candidates and we laugh, and we don't make it dry. We try to bring life to it, because otherwise, yeah, guys, politics is boring, and politics should be boring. Oh my God, it should be boring. But I also understand that people are not going to stay tuned into boring stuff. So we, the interviewers, have to figure out how to make it entertaining. That's exhausting, believe it or not. It is exhausting.
You know, we talk about reaching people, we talk about informing people, and that's important. That's as I said a few minutes ago, job one. Now, it gets frustrating when you know that there's a certain amount of people that we're not going to reach, and that's a fact of life. We're not going to get through to the MAGA people. They're going to move the goalposts. They're not going to agree with us no matter what we say. I don't care if gas goes to $12 a gallon. There's certain people that we're just not going to get. And you want to know what? We don't need them. Because one of the biggest misapprehensions is why Donald Trump won in 2024. Only about half the vote he got of the 77 million votes, only about half of them were hardcore MAGAs. That's all they are. They only make up about 35 million people. It's the other MAGA adjacent voters who voted because of inflation, who voted because they just didn't like Biden. Those are the ones who are reachable. And as evidenced by every election that's taken place this year, and last year, the Democrats have been outperforming by 16 points. So it's possible. It's doable. You may see a Democrat elected senator in Texas. You may see a Democrat elected senator in Alaska. Now, when's the last time that happened? And you may see that this November. So it's difficult, but it's not impossible. And the voters that we need to reach are the ones who are independents. They're the ones who voted this time with Trump in 2024, but weren't really sold on him. They were mad at the state of the country under the Democratic administration. Whether that was justified or not is a completely different subject. They are reachable, and they're the ones we've got to be reaching out to.
And I think it goes even a little bit farther than that. Two of the things. So saying, Jamie, I hear what you're saying, but also I think we forget sometimes that we were talking about this yesterday. There are some people in this country, as I've said before, that have never interacted with anyone who considers, at least openly interacted with anyone who they consider a Democrat. Oh no, there's trouble.
No, just say it.
Yeah, go ahead. Say it.
Hello, Ted.
Hello.
Hey, baby.
Hey, kiddo.
Yeah, it's right.
Yes, I am. Thank you, baby. And it gets clearer every time he says it. It's fantastic. I love him.
Brainwashing.
Give Chad a forehead kiss.
Oh, thanks.
We need to understand that he was paid. We need to understand that we're dealing in a very dude, just grow up. We're dealing in a situation where so many people don't have that kind of interaction. Old party mind. We need to stop associating ourselves like in our minds. We need to stop associating. Yes, we need to associate with parties in terms, especially if you're in a place where you don't have an option. You need to associate with a party in order to be able to vote. You need to. And if I understand the desire, again, as someone who has never officially associated with a party, I understand the desire to stay independent. But in our brains, we should never officially associate with a party. They're corporations. They're businesses. They're businesses. Their job is only to win. That's all they care about. They don't, as a corporation, they don't care about that. That doesn't mean the people that are in it don't have the ability to care about you, but the corporation itself, it doesn't care about you. It doesn't. They can make their own rules. We've already talked about it. Even Democratic parties in some states have some really messed up rules that are preventing incumbents from losing.
Mike, can I ask a technical question here?
Sure.
Sometimes when you're speaking, your audio cuts out for about 2-3 seconds, and then it picks up again. Is that a problem on my end, or has anybody else noticed that? Because it just happened when you were just talking again.
I don't have that issue.
Okay, it's probably on my end, probably my Wi-Fi.
You can drop if you want to drop and close out the app, and we can bring you back up.
You know what, kid? It's only 2 or 3 seconds, and
Okay.
too much trouble. But yeah, if it starts happening a lot, I will do that. Thank you.
Did Jesus install your internet?
Yeah, he actually it was before that. Joseph and Mary were looking for a place to stay, so I let them stay in my house, and they installed my internet for me.
Oh gosh.
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. You know I love you, Scott.
I know. I think it's funny.
There was another.
Hey, I don't mind getting older. The only thing that sucks about getting older is my back hurts all the time. But outside of that, screw it.
And Ken, to go along with the statement of our hands are tied until November, they are tied in one respect, in the sense of, you know, we are limited in the things that we have the capability of doing, but our hands aren't tied. Our hands aren't tied to make change. There are primaries going on right now. There are primaries going on. Our hands aren't tied if we're getting people that want the change through in the primaries. That's not a tied hand.
Well, also take a look at what happened in Minneapolis. The people got together and voiced their opinion and got ICE to back down. So there's still action we can take that's not directly related to voting, you know, that's getting involved in your community. Even if it's not directly related to voting, you can force change.
And yes, we can't wait until this is part of the reason we are in the situation we're in, is because too much of the country only pays attention. So a bunch of the country doesn't pay attention at all. They're just like, I don't do politics. There's another large chunk of the country that only pays attention when it comes to voting in the general election or the presidential election only, or they only vote for president. They don't vote for anything else. And then we have a very small amount of the country that will pay attention to that does more work. And we've got to get past that. We've got to get this country past that. We've got to get them to see that. And again, the way you do that is by having conversations with them. It doesn't, we again, this is where this line that some of us, not all of us, but some of us have to walk, of there has to be in order to get people's minds to change, and in order for change to really happen, we have to interact with people in such a way where we don't let them just say whatever they want, but we allow them to hear, because the only way they're really going to change is through themselves. Like, they're not, nothing we say, we cannot convince someone to care. Nothing any of us says up here is going to convince anybody who's listening to care. They have to care. They have to care when they have to care when someone says, this is how I'm being affected. It's on that. Like, I can't force them to, but they won't ever get a chance to if we shut everybody off for any reason. And it's not doable for some people for obvious reasons, especially if you are part of one of those marginalized communities that is specifically being attacked. Don't get me wrong. You absolutely have every right to not want to ever interact with someone who helped make the situation you're in a reality. But we need to, as a whole, keep talking, keep pushing, keep having conversations that allow for these people that, for whatever reason, to learn, to grow. Georgia, what have we done? Or which part are you talking about? I'm assuming you're talking about the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court elections.
The problem with the Georgia State Supreme Court election, there were actually more Democrats who voted yesterday than there were Republicans in the state of Georgia. So the results were rather curious in the Supreme Court races, until you figure out that in the state of Georgia, unlike most states, there's no R or D next to the judge's name. And the Democrats did a particularly poor job of advertising who they supported. And there's a lesson to be learned by the Democrats there. Don't assume that the voters know. Teach them.
Mm-hmm.
Message correctly. The Democrats did a lousy job of doing that, and the results speak for themselves in Georgia. The Democrats turned out the vote, but didn't tell them who to vote for.
I think we sell ourselves short if we say that somebody cannot win. I
Mhm.
mean, because we thought that the orange one couldn't have won a second time for sure, and look what happened. So I think we have to be careful saying that. We also have to be careful about putting that kind of bad energy and juju out.
Mhm.
If we want her to be able to win, we need to go ahead and start supporting her. She's a candidate. Then I can tell you, there's some black folks that are kind of happy about it. You know, I heard some people quite happy with it. So I think we have to be careful what kind of energy we're putting out there.
You living there your entire life does not mean anything. No offense.
Well, Brandon, the people of the Democratic electorate chose her, so she's the candidate fair and square. I mean, I don't understand your reasoning with that, but by definition, she won the primary. So, yeah, she can win.
The whole point of this is I live here. Okay.
Yeah, the people I heard talking about it that were excited live there as well. They voted for her. That's again, like I just said, we kept sitting there thinking that a 34-time convicted felon would not win, but look what happened. So saying that kind of stuff is just not helpful.
But the point we're making, and it's good that you'll vote for. Point we're making is you coming out here, for anyone who might be in this audience right now that is on the fence, you're coming out and saying she cannot win, but I'll vote for her though. How is that convincing someone on the fence that she's the right choice? She is the other choice. That is the other choice. Those are your two choices. Those are what you got. Stop putting out there that you are disappointed in the two choices. Is she a bad person? I haven't looked into her. And from what little I have seen about her in the 2 seconds I looked her up yesterday while we were watching it, she doesn't seem like she's a bad person. So why not be excited and push for it? Why sit here and just be like, it'll never happen?
In this electoral environment, Brandon, there's going to be quite a number of Democrats in November that we thought couldn't win who will win. Now, that's just, you take a look at these special elections, you take a look at the elections in New Jersey and Virginia, and you take a look at the polling, and you take a look at the president's approval rating, which is the worst for any president in history at this point in his term. There's a wave coming. Now, how big a wave, we can't predict yet. But there's going to be Democrats that in states that we never thought would have a chance who are going to win.
Why do you think she is a bad candidate and not a good quality candidate? I haven't looked deep into her, but I looked at her. What little I did, nothing showed me that she was a bad candidate or not a quality candidate.
The only thing I know about her was that she was the former mayor of Atlanta.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. Just hearing the people, what they were saying, and that's, I just think we have to be careful with the kind of energy we put out. Like,
yes.
There's so many people we didn't think were they're or being, and look what's happening. I think we have to change our thought process to make it better.
And I live in Atlanta. That doesn't answer my question. Why do you believe that she is a bad candidate? Because you thought she was a bad mayor?
I think the thing is this. I believe you can express some things that you would like to see someone do better in that vein. But I agree with Mike, and don't just say, "Oh, not a good X or a good Y," So because the thing is, nobody goes to a steakhouse, right, and says, "You know what, man, I'm getting ready to get this steak because it's got 16 grams of protein in it." No, you're like, "Hey, man, do you hear that sizzle? Do you see those grill marks? Do you taste that flavor?" Right? So if you're talking about, regardless of the things that you feel they need to improve upon, which it's okay for you to feel that way, you need to talk about the things that they are doing well so that other people can have that opportunity to go, "Hey, you know what? This person is passionate about this." Talk about the things that you connect with, the things that you do like, and then the things that, you want to see improve upon. Say, "Man, I think I would like to see them do better here, here, and here." But I agree with them on these things because tearing them down won't do any good for someone who's on the fence or thinking that this other person is the other option.
And Hangry Panda, I agree. We need to stop with the purity test during the general election. Once the primary is done, purity test all you want in a primary. That the whole point of the primary is to pick who you think is the best. That is literally the point of the primary. My issue with the primary is people don't get out and vote, and most people don't pay attention to who is running. Like they don't actually pay attention to what the people stand for. Most of the time they just vote for the incumbent, or they vote for the person they saw on TV, and they don't actually look into any of the other candidates at all. That being said, once it's done, you look at the two candidates and you say which one is best, and that's it. So I don't understand why you're freaking out. That what we're saying only is there's no point in even putting that in. That's the candidate. Unless there is anything in her background that shows that she is MAGA, she's going to be better than any of the candidates running. Yeah, but you're not going to get Georgia to cross over to blue with a mentality that doesn't actually encourage people to get excited about voting blue.
If I may, sitting there and just saying she's a bad candidate, but I'm going to vote for her, you're not going to instill confidence in anybody you talk to. People are just going to abstain from voting because it's like, well, either I'm going to go vote for somebody who's a bad candidate and probably is not going to do a good job, or I'm going to go vote for a Republican. Nah, I'm just not going to go vote. That's what you're going to end up getting. If she's really a bad candidate, then tell us why she's a bad candidate. Otherwise, understand that's the person you get to support. That's the person who was chosen. Find everything good about that candidate that gives you a reason to support them, and then tell everybody about those things so that they're driven and they're passionate to want to go vote, so that you can flip it blue. Because if you want it to go blue, then you actually have to do the work. You can't sit there and say, well, I'm freaking out, well, this, well, that, because all you're going to do is you're going to not instill confidence in others.
And Brandon, a very good comment was made in chat by Hungry Panda, who said there's really no such thing as a perfect candidate, and that's really true. There aren't any perfect candidates out there. And let me be, rather than speaking in generalities, Graham Plattner would not have been my choice to be the candidate in Maine. But when I compare, but now the die is cast. And now it's going to be Graham Plattner versus Susan Collins. And to me, that's no choice. I would definitely vote for Graham Plattner. Wouldn't have been my choice in the primary. Like Mike said, in the primary, you go with your heart and head. You go for the person that you want the most, regardless of their chances of winning. But it's a different calculation in the general election. You have to, and even if that means that you're voting for the best of two bad choices, so be it. So be it. Yeah, it's a different calculation in the general election.
Look at our conversations, how few they may be about the 2028 presidential election. I am going to do everything in my power to make sure that Gavin Newsom is not the choice. I've said it. I don't like him. I think he is too willing to do and say things to try and get votes than actually stand on what he believes. Regardless, there are times where I'm not even sure he knows what he believes the way he talks sometimes. I'm going to vote against that in the primaries every second. That being said, if the choice is between like him and JD Vance, it's not even a question. It's not even a question in my mind. And that's the difference.
Yeah,
I was
go ahead, Kia.
I was just going to say, I was taught by my dad back in the 90s. My dad goes, well, for primaries, you vote with your heart, but general election, you vote the lesser of two evils, regardless of who the options are. If you actually happen to like one of them, even better.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. It's a completely different calculation in the general election because by definition, you have two choices. So that's a different calculation. In most primaries, you have a number of choices, and you'll probably be able to find one candidate who matches up with you completely. And for Brandon, it wasn't, the mayor, but that's okay. Now, Brandon, you have a different choice to make, a different calculation to make in the general election.
I mean, you said that you would go out and knock doors, and this is why we're saying it. And again, I hope you don't feel like you are being attacked. You aren't the only one that is feeling things like this. So we're not, it's not against you. It's a general mentality that we need to be aware of. You say you're going to go out and knock doors. You don't think that how can you convince someone that they should be excited and want to vote for someone when you can't, get excited about them?
That's exactly it. Where if you're not excited or passionate about it, you're not going to install confidence in other people when it comes to voting for them.
Hey, I just want to say something when it comes to I have heard that term lesser of two evils, especially when it comes to political stuff, and I absolutely can't stand that saying because here's the thing: when people say that, I understand the sentiment behind it, but to me, you're still saying I'm going to pick an evil choice. Just vote for the better person. Say, I voted for who I believe would do the best job, for who I believe I could work with the most out of the choices that we have. We need to get away from the lesser of two evils because that's still evil.
Well, and depending on who you're talking about, again, if you're talking about, let's go back to my Gavin Newsom, JD Vance choice. Regardless of all of the things that I dislike about Gavin Newsom and will push against in every way during the primaries, I believe that Gavin Newsom believes that all people deserve rights, respect, dignity, and safety. I don't believe that of JD Vance. That is evil to me. What's evil to me is this idea that someone is someone that goes against my fundamentals. If I believe that if you don't believe that all people, no matter your race, religion, gender, identity, deserve rights, respect, dignity, and safety, that is to me is evil. So when you're talking two people, even if one of the people would not be my choice in the primaries and I would actually campaign against them getting it, that does not make them evil. That makes them flawed, which, as was already stated before, we all are. Even everybody that voted against, we've just got to get past it. Kamala was a great candidate and they wouldn't vote her in here just over it. A lot of people did vote for her. She didn't lose by what percentage did she lose by?
1.5%. So a whole lot of people did vote for her.
You're perfect in Mary Poppins. That's true. Yeah. So and again, you want to know probably, and I can't guarantee this, but it would not surprise me if the reason she lost in some of those cases is more people were complaining on the progressive side about her being the candidate than actually standing behind her and truly fighting for her. I mean, there was other reasons too, obviously, but people can tell when you're just like milky toast about it.
And I'm gonna go ahead and just call out my fellow veterans. I personally am super ashamed that any of us who signed up to serve fixed ourselves to support the orange one with all of the vitriol that he has aimed our way. And I'm saying that obviously as a veteran and deployed twice, served 6 years. It is astonishing to me just how little, and I will say, I have seen some of the people that I served with fix their lips to support that foolishness, and it's wild to see it unfold in real time. And if there are any other veterans in here and you did support him, just fix yourself, please. Get it together.
And that's the thing. And that's the part that's frustrating. And that's the part where this whole issue comes in as a whole. So if your reason for not voting for her was because she didn't get voted in the same way that, you know, we're used to, or you didn't like her stance on one thing, if you can't sit there and look at each one of those, both of the people that were running for office that actually had a chance of winning, and see the difference to the extent that you would be willing to vote for her, you like that. That's where the evil in my mind comes in, because there is no comparison for those two. Even if you weren't excited about her as a choice, and I'll be honest, depending on who was running, I may not have been excited in like that she wouldn't have been the person that I would have voted for in the primary. I can't guarantee it. It depends who she was running against, but that's beside the point. When you are again, it's the same idea. It's like Kamala Harris was a room that was messy, which everyone's room would be messy. But Donald Trump's room was not only messy, but had a giant pile of shit that was on fire in it. There is no comparison to the two. Not even a little bit.
Indeed, it was a binary choice, and it should have been the easiest choice ever, especially since we had the experience of Mr. Trump as president from 2017 through early 2021. You know, especially since we already knew what type of human being this guy was. There's no mistaking that. There's no misunderstanding. There's no, well, he's a businessman, let's give it a shot, like in 2016. Here we had experience, and yet they voted for him again.
You know, I think part of the issue is, sorry, I've been quiet. I'm trying to get me some food before I go live. I think part of the issue is everybody kept coming up with all these excuses. And my thing is they had already seen what happened with him the first time. And it's just like, and if anything, J6 should have been enough. And I'm right there with you. My dad served for 22 years, and that's one of the things he said. He said, I cannot believe that my brother veterans, my fellow veterans, voted for somebody like this, a draft dodger, and with all the things that he's done and just the total lack of care for this country that he's shown. He said the same thing. He was just so disappointed. And it's just, how do you get people to get it? I think part of the issue is, again, folks don't understand how directly their everyday lives are impacted by politics. You know, there's so many things. We often talk about just the president, but like at the end of the day, there's so much shit that he's not responsible for, that the people at our local levels are responsible for. And my thing is if we don't have the hard conversations, and if people, I don't know what we do about the part where people seem to have such a short memory span. For some reason, they just think that during his whole first cycle that everything was amazing and all that stuff. And I'm like, did you forget January 6th? Did we forget what happened during C-19? Did we forget all of those other things? The fact that he got charged in a court, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's frustrating.
Yep.
And I'd have to say I don't necessarily agree with you. I think because if people, instead of people protesting and not voting, actually showed up and vote, I think she could have won. Hillary won the popular vote. I do think that we can win. I do think we can win. And I think we have to keep putting that energy out into the atmosphere. Because if the women keep saying that a woman can't win, how do we expect for the men to ever vote for us?
Of course, a woman can win. We've had 2 women run in 2016 and in 2024. One won the popular vote by 2 points. The other lost the popular vote by 1.5 points. Therefore, by definition, of course they can win. They almost did, both of them. Both of them came very close to winning. Hillary Clinton lost because of the Electoral College, and Vice President Harris lost by 1.5 points. So yes, a woman can win. Does that mean, am I saying it's not harder for a woman? Unfortunately, it is harder for a woman, but that doesn't mean that they can't win.
But what we need 100%
Hey,
is people to turn out and vote. End of story.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. You make a very good point. We pat ourselves on the back in this country ridiculously if we crack 60% turnout in a general election, a presidential election. We get 45 to 50% turnout for a midterm. And as we discover to our chagrin, in the most important elections, the primaries, we get 15 to 20% turnout. Well, we call ourselves a participatory democracy. We don't seem to be participating all that well. Take a look at Germany. They have a snap election, 81% turned out. Viktor Orban's election. He did everything he could, controlling all levers of the media and government, and they still had over 80% of the people turn out. And we pat ourselves on the back when we get 60.
I have a question. Why does the Electoral College choose the president versus the popular vote?
Because the Constitution says. Because the Electoral College is part of the Constitution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
you would have to get rid of Papa, to get rid of the Electoral College, you would have to change the Constitution. And that would be one of the reasons that we talk a lot about having a constitutional convention. That would certainly be one of the subjects that would come up. There are a lot of historical reasons why we have the Electoral College, namely small states. It was a way to get them to agree to the Constitution and feel that they weren't being overwhelmed by the large states. But it's an idea whose time has long since come and passed. I don't think there's just not a lot of logical reasons for keeping the Electoral College at this point.
When I talk about antiquated systems that are no longer serving us, that's one of them, the Electoral College.
And the popular vote compact, I think that's, obvious. So, and this is the problem that we've got, right? I agree. I think that would be the National Popular Vote Compact would be a great way to get past the idea of the Electoral College. The problem at this point, I don't trust our our Supreme Court to not find some dumbass way of overturning and making it unconstitutional somehow.
The other problem with it, Mike, is if you're only going to have blue states signing up for it, you're unilaterally disarming. The same thing. It's the same problem as with gerrymandering. So I don't favor it unless we get a buy-in from an equal number of states.
I'll say this, and then I gotta go. I think my issue is because I think for a lot of people, they didn't ever think we'd have a black president, and we've had that. I'm really big on the energy we put out, because how many people said, I don't think a woman could win, and didn't vote for her, and we ended up with Trump. And I really think it's about changing our thought process, because if we keep thinking a woman can't win. We've been here for 250 years. Why and when? Is it only going to be white men? Because we see what happens when we keep voting. Other than one person, it's all been white men, and they have done absolutely shit but run this country into look where we are now, and we're surrounded by a bunch of white men that are in power. So I think it's disingenuous of us, like, to not think that we can do it. I think she could have done it. And Linda, I have to say, this is my thing. If the people in Detroit simply didn't vote for her because she didn't go there, knowing that she only had a little bit over 100 days, how in the world do they think that one person is going to make it to every city and every place that she quote unquote should have went to in 100 days? I don't think it should have been looked at like how other candidates who had the full 4 years or 2 years or however long to run. I don't think it's fair for people to lump that all into one thing. And it's okay, we can disagree on that. I'm real big on the energy. If we don't change the energy in our thought process, how are we ever supposed to get anybody else to think that we can do it? Because I think if anything, women can do it. Women have succeeded in a lot of other places. I think we can do it.
100%. And the countries that now have women leaders have all turned themselves around. They are now the countries that no longer have a declining birth rate. They have this, they have that. They no longer have, extreme homelessness and extreme impoverishedness and extreme, impoverishment of children. They've actually reinvested in all the social programs to support women and children. And surprise, women ended up having more kids.
I don't think it's really all that complicated. No one ever, not once in American history, have we had a president elected from a party that had a favorability rating of below 40%. Harris was running in an environment where Joe Biden had an approval rating of 37%. She would have been the first person ever elected from a party that had below 40% approval rating. That was too high a mountain for her to climb. If Joe Biden had had a 57% approval rating, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now because she would be president.
And unfortunately, I think we're in a situation right now where no one's going to have a great approval rating. And I think we're going to have a problem with anyone having a good approval rating for a while because of how different the different groups of people view things. Again, I think we are dealing right now with a problem of a difference of lines in the sand. And
it's quite true. We are in a very, and this is throughout both political parties, a very anti-Washington point of view on the part of the electorate. And I think both parties would be wise to select candidates from outside the Washington firmament.
Mm-hmm. But we'll see what happens. Again, this is why we do what we do. This is why we have these conversations. This is why what we do is needed. Because again, none of these answers are obvious. None of these answers are easy. It's one thing that we need to remember, and we've had this conversation when it's been about voting. I've said how I think everyone, if you are a citizen, you should be required to vote. And I've had some people get very upset at me on it because they look at it from a current situation perspective. And I think and I understand that. One of the things that we need to do is have these conversations knowing that there are other things that need to change to make it a happen. So this is why I say we need to talk about what we want, and then we need to look at what needs to be done in order to get it to what we want. And that is, we so many times we talk about what we want and we say it's not possible because we only have the capability right now. And I understand it's hard. We too often only look at it from the perspective of what we're dealing with right now. And the reality is a lot needs to change in this country before we can get to the point of making some of these changes. Like it's not a one thing. Like we can't just say everyone has to vote. We have to put things in place to make it possible for people to vote, right? Like if the pieces aren't in place to make it easy for people to vote, then requiring people to vote isn't an option. And that goes with all of the things that we talk about. Like when we say when we say we need to do these things with schools, well, there's more to it than just saying that. Let's put it that way. So I understand. I understand the problem that we're. This is why I say what we're doing is against the status quo, is different from what a lot of people are doing, is because a lot of what people are doing are just complaining about what's wrong in the world. And we can't continue to do that. That is all what we have done for the last 20 years that I can remember. It's always been complain about what X, Y, and Z person have done, and then just vote for the other side and put, death by 1,000 cuts kind of a thing. We're doing is putting band-aids on the cuts. We're not actually trying to stop the cuts from happening in the first place. And that's where we're at right now. So, guys, I'm going to head out.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Fake news. There's only 1%, or there's only 1%. There's only one. It's a perception. Isn't that great? There's only one perspective that matters, and that is the one of Donald J. Trump.
Only
folks.
one
My perspective
prescription.
is great. Whatever you want to call it, folks. Everything I do is great. I'm wonderful. Don't listen to Mike, folks. His lips are not that fire. He's actually got very cool lips. His lips are pretty cold. Pretty cold.
Oh,
I tell you.
Oh my God.
Sorry, it's been too long.
It
I
has
had to
been
break
too
it
long.
out.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you're over on TikTok, please collect all your points. Please watch the content and share it. Please go over and join over on the tube and watch that content and share it. Because while some of the people I interviewed didn't win their primaries, there are some that are either going straight on to the general already or did win. So the best way to help them is to watch the stuff and share the stuff and interact with the stuff. It really does help. And I know people are exhausted. I know people are tired. Also, thank you to everyone that has supported my fundraising goals to be able to go and visit some of these candidates live. It means more to me than you know. If you have the ability to help with that, I appreciate it. There is a link not only in Discord, but over on the tube and in my bio if you're here on TikTok. Again, thank you so much for everyone. If you like, I mean, again, a lot of the people here are, Shadow also does interviews, support progressive people that are that are trying to help get the word out about these candidates. Please, please, please help out. You guys are amazing. Just the way you are, and I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile, do something that makes you happy, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye, guys.
Shameless plug. I have an interview at 3 p.m. today with William Marks. He did not win his primary, but we're going to have him come on and talk about his campaign anyways. And again, at 6:30, I have Jeff Pixley, who is still running for Oklahoma.
There you go. Bye, guys.